Come back to News Live. Now, access to funding is one of the biggest threats to the success of youth entrepreneurship. Funding institutions in the private and public sectors seem to prefer funding companies that are already up and running.
According to the World Bank, over 50% of South Africa's youth are unemployed. Youth entrepreneurship is a way for young people to contribute to the economy and create employment. However, access to funding remains a challenge. Reggie Letolo, a young entrepreneur, says accessing funding in the private sector and still remaining independent is difficult. He says investors always want to absorb the business. His videographic company, Pimped Out Boys Entertainment, shoots music videos and commercials, among other things.
We have tried to source from government help and private sector. With the private sector, they are willing to help you when there's records, and in order to have those you need a startup capital. So basically, we started ourselves out with all the little jobs that we did, and until we could get an accountant to do our accounting, so we could get bigger funding.
Government has put in place mechanisms like the National Youth Development Agency to fund youth entrepreneurship. While 55% of the businesses funded by the NYDA are successful and sustainable, 32% of them are not.
We took a conscious decision when we moved away from loan financing to grant funding, because our idea was that there are a lot of development finance institutions that government has put in place. There's a lot of private funding institutions that are out there, but all of them are looking for an entrepreneur, an established entrepreneur. Nobody is trying to cultivate the culture of entrepreneurship amongst young people, and this for us was an obvious thing to do.
The NYDA funds youth-owned businesses through grants, which buy and supply them with the equipment they need to run their businesses. Kuda Matiza is a fashion designer who has showcased his work at fashion shows. After starting a business and failing, he's about to receive a grant from the NYDA, which will buy him sewing machines. He hopes they will enable him to mass produce and supply his house of Hoa garments to local retailers.
I've been working with NYDA for about a year now. We've worked in terms of finding out how they can be able to assist me with the business in terms of funding as well. We've also done mentorship basically. There's a mentorship program on mentoring on how we run the business, how to be able to actually understand the business ethics as well.
While both entrepreneurs have found different avenues of funding, they still battle with access to markets and competition from already established companies. Balentle Mthethwa, SABC News, Johannesburg.